Whoa, whoa, whoa. I know you saw that title and you're wondering what's going on, so here it is. Let's begin at the beginning of when we came into this problem, all right, when we picked it up. Gundam manga publisher Kadokawa recruiting overseas talent due to Japan's population crisis. Now, again, this is no surprise to anybody, but Japan has not a lot of people right now. And that means it's less likely for those smaller amount of people to be able to fill up the jobs needed to create these manga and, of course, the anime. Because here we have it. Gundam franchise animator, that's Sunrise, says shorter anime seasons due to a shortage of professional staff, reveals that the studios are turning to social media for help. Now, again, they're going out there into the world looking at X, looking at Facebook, looking at Instagram, probably Blue Sky too. A lot of people over there went, a lot of artists went over there too. So they're checking out these different platforms in order to find people that they need in order to continue making these things. Because as they said in the previous one, there's not enough people in Japan to make this stuff. Even if you held a gun to the head of the Japanese people that are living in Japan now and forced them into industries, there's just not enough people to fill the gap. So there's no point in forcing these people to work longer, these poor animators that are already working to the bone for basically nothing. If you don't know, being an animator in Japan is a definite act of love. They only get paid about 12 to 15,000 US dollars a year, and they're expected to live on that. They end up living in dormitories together because they can't afford independent domiciles. Then they have to go home to their families way out in the countryside or at the edge of town because they can't afford to live in the city. So they're not even there with their families while they're doing all of this. It is, again, it's part of the corporate structure in Japan. It's outside of our culture. We have to understand that that's what they agreed to be part of, all right? But understand, it doesn't attract a lot of people who are not so passionate about animation. This is good, right? When you come down to it, we don't want people who aren't into animation becoming involved in animation. It's kind of what happened here in the US. It doesn't matter if the subscriber count never changes. What matters is if we let the subscriber count change us. Every one of us has to find a reason to do this. You don't just climb up in front of a microphone and start spouting off your opinions because you're a YouTuber. You do it because you're driven. But anyway, this shocking title came over from Automaton, and I happen to agree with it. It's not that I hate Gundam. Let's find out what they have to say. The Gundam series may not survive another 10 years, Gundam GQX director suggests. Gundam GQX, an Evangelion director, shares his insights on young audiences' shifting relationship with the concept of a pilotable robot. That doesn't seem like it should be true, right? Like Gundam, they've got all these ideas. Giant robots, it's just a fountain of cool stuff that could happen. But the problem is that Gundam limits itself to a certain type of conflict, and it's very rare that it gets outside of that conflict. And unfortunately, over time, having these, world-ending conflicts kind of gets a little dull when we all know how it's going to go. The hero Gundam's going to explode in the middle, and then in the middle of it, and then some cool Gundam's going to come out the other side. That's not me smearing Gundam. That's me acknowledging the formula that they have followed since the beginning. Okay? Now, here, he goes on to explain his thinking on why this is. Like many of his peers, Tsurumaki has been captivated by the idea of adolescent characters piloting huge machines ever since the start of Japan's robot boom back in the 70s. He says, "When I was a kid, motorcycles and cars were the objects of admiration. I think that the idea of piloting a robot came as an extension of that admiration, as a way to not only leap right into adulthood, but also to wield a tool that allows you to surpass adults." Now, if you remember, the majority of Gundam protagonists have always been gifted young men who just hop in the cockpit and have some divine ability to know how to pilot it right out of the gate. You remember Kira Jesus Yamato, right? So let's go down here. He goes on with what he has to say here. And he says, in today's manga and anime, protagonists wield magic or psychic powers, abilities that let them surpass adults in a more intuitive way. So, as he's explaining here, is that Tsurumaki suggests that the rise of video games where you can control characters just by using a controller has come to satisfy the desire for empowerment among newer generations of kids, replacing the role of robot anime that played such a huge role in his generation. So we'll scroll down. There's some more to say here. And so he has this to say about it. He says, I don't think those kids understand what it means to pilot a robot. For now, the generations that grew up admiring bikes and cars are still active, but in another 10 years, even the Gundam series might not survive. I had already felt this while working on Evangelion, but there was a need to update them. There is, rather, a need to update robots. So the situation that they're finding themselves in at Sunrise, as apart from Gundam, is that the go to war in a giant robot thing has kind of ran its course. I can't deny that. I can't deny that. I am a bit bored with the UC. Oh no, what's Xeon? What's Neo Xeon doing now? It's gotten very I don't know, Saturday morning cartoon, I guess. They feel more like Power Ranger villains than adversaries in a war. And the same thing with the Titans. Oh no, what are the Neo Titans up to now? Horrible things, I'm sure. One of the alluring things about Gundam outside of the cool robots was that both sides were sort of presented with an equal reason to be involved in the conflict. And that mattered to a lot of people, especially me, because I enjoy that kind of world building behind the giant robot. But there are still a great deal of people that just want to see robots blow each other up in the context of war. This is where Sunrise finds themselves. As Tsurumaki was explaining here, there are people that are, his age, mine, and yours, that are still interested in giant robots. Like, take a look at this post we made over on the Bounding X account. We have right here, it's at Bounding Comics, by the way, in case you're trying to find us and can't. We got that weird name. It's at Bounding Comics. Apparently, we forgot the into part. I don't know. Anyway, why do you think that Zoids failed to take off in the USA? Are animal robots not cool? Now, feel free to answer that question down in the comments below for yourself, but a lot of people replied in the affirmative that, no, actually, Zoids was really cool. We really enjoyed that shit. That was the best thing in the world. This guy says dinosaur robots are effing awesome. Check it out. I always liked Zoids. IDK, Beast Wars was really popular when I was a kid. And this guy says, I loved Zoids as a kid. I thought they were so badass, even bought the GameCube game for it. I have that, by the way. I just don't know where my GameCube and games are. When I find it, we are going to play Zoids. I promise you, we're going to play Zoids. I'll figure out how to make it happen. Because it's an important extension of that idea of Gundam, because Zoids did two things, all right? The American side that got it anyway. When we finally got Zoids, it was a very evolved thing. When they had it in Japan, it wasn't so evolved, rather. So when you look at Liger Zero, for instance, right? When you look at Liger Zero, you go, yes, this is the Zoid that competed in a sort of battle royale tournament ranking game where you have to physically overcome other Zoids at the risk of being blown the fuck up. There was a lot of logic leaping going on in those early attempts at getting Zoids off the ground, and it didn't really take off here in the West, unfortunately. But I think that Gundam could learn a lot from Zoids, and in fact, I think, you have to let me know in the comments below if this is a good idea or not. I think that they already have a partnership. You already have Takara Tomy working with Bandai to make more Zoids models through the Bandai factory. So that's it's good stuff. So why don't we just take that one step further and drag Gundams onto Planet Z? You remember good old Planet Z? That's where this happened. That's where Van and the Blade Liger happened. Remember Zeke and Van and the Death Soarer? Remember that? Well, why don't we throw Gundams into the middle of that? What's the problem with that? They already had a war, so it's not like the Zoids have never had a war. We'll just take it back to that time in the franchise and toss Gundams into the middle of it. We've already proven that they can cross dimensions, create hollow realities, that new types are basically just whatever they want to be in the moment. Remember Lala Soon? The whole reason why we have Gundam GQX is because of Lala Soon wanting to protect Char so much that she created an entirely different universe where he didn't die. One person did that. I find it hard to believe that a new type couldn't create a gateway to Planet Z. It doesn't even need to be in another universe. Planet Z is so far away from Earth in its own setting that it can simply be a far-off colony that's so way away from Earth that Earth stuff doesn't really affect it. So while Gundam UC is still happening over here, 5 or 10 Gundams get dumped onto Planet Z by accident because a new type has a headache. Why not? And here it is. You could have Liger Zero and, RX-79 kicking ass side by side. Bit Cloud and O.R.C.A going at it. I don't know. I'd like to see Char and a Genosaur. What about you? Have to let me know down in the comments below what you think. I really like Zoids. I really like the concept of animal robots that compete. The war thing was a little weird for me, but I understand that they're just making use of what's available to them and that the Zoids kind of pre-existed the humans on this planet, so it's okay to, use them as the weapon because they were already killing each other to begin with. It's a big thing with Zoids as to whether or not they're alive or not, and that's another thing with Gundam, the ghost in the machine, right? So, these two franchises already have so much in common. I really think Sunrise should look into doing like a season's worth of seasons, series worth of series of Gundams encountering Zoids and the fallout from that. Because the Zoids do everything the Gundams do. They've got the big old fuck you blaster in the mouth. They've got all that, right? So I think that's a really good move for them to make. You'll have to let me know what you think down in the comments below about it. And also, guys, do you really think that Gundams run out of gas? I think so, but it's not like it doesn't have the ability to do something different. I just think that the UC, the Universal Century, where Amuro and Char are just constantly beating each other's asses all the time, I think it's just kind of run its course. It's been around since the 70s. It's kind of done everything it can. I mean, at this point, they quite literally restarted the universe in front of us in order to keep telling this story. That's what they did. They just rebooted that thing in front of us and then undid it because, it's part of the plot to have it undone. That's how threadbare the stories become. I got nothing against Tomino. Tomino does a great work. He's a great man. I admire his opinions on war. In fact, I really do. But the problem I have with all of it is that it's become very tired. Giant robots blowing giant robots up in space because Earth did this or the colonies did this. It's just, I get it. So let's throw giant robot lions into the middle of it. Let's throw giant robot dinosaurs into the middle of it. Let's throw a planet that's not really settled very well, a half colonized planet that's still pretty wild. I don't know. Do you think it would work? But that's all I have for today, guys. You'll have to let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. And as always, guys, keep a cool head and good luck out there.